Good evening, everyone. It's been a while since I've uploaded. Today is October 13th, 2025, and it's been a great lifetime since I uploaded. So, we'll start off, we'll come back to our usual momentum back on our YouTube channel. And as a new topic of discussion, as you can see down there in the thumbnail, we have a discussion about how to define your purpose in life. So, this is going to be a very philosophical question, so there are going to be certain things that you might pertain that are wrong in your own perspective, but in my perspective, I believe that whatever I say today in this video can be heavily debated upon. So I'll ensure that the comments are open so that we can open for debate and discussion, because this is something that requires serious discussion as well as debates, as well as a lot of reconsideration of thoughts and feelings and courtesy with people. So let's start with the basic question. What is purpose? What is purpose? Let's define that first. So, purpose is basically something which gives or defines or just gives more authenticity to something, in my perspective. So purpose is something that gives something a meaning. You know, something can exist, but that existence needs to have a meaning, because let's say, for example, using examples can make this discussion much easier. Let's say, for example, the number 0. If we look at it carefully, the number 0 is actually something which means nothing. 0 itself means nothing, right? But then 0 itself has a meaning, it has a purpose. Otherwise, it wouldn't have existed, because if something has a meaning, it is bound to exist. And if it doesn't have a meaning, then it's not really bound to exist in our virtual world. So we'll get back to that, because we can say that something exists, but then we can also say that something exists but doesn't exist, and that depends upon the lifestyle of people. I'll get to that soon. That's a very profound statement I made that can be debated upon, but we'll keep continuing. So purpose is basically something that's an action or reaction, which gives something or some definition or something in life a meaning, a certain meaningful statement which defines that certain thing. Let's suppose that certain thing is x. X can be anything. X can be a thing, x can be an equation, x can be a scientific theory, it could be anything. So that theory doesn't actually make much sense until there is a certain meaning given to that. But then we have to reconsider the fact that the word meaning itself hasn't come from thin air. Meaning itself needs to have a meaning. I know this is getting very paradoxical, but it's getting pretty messed up, but we'll get to this. So, for something to have a meaning, it should be logical. So if we look at the paradoxes, we'll get stuck, because for a meaning to have a meaning, there's no such situation as a meaning to have a meaning. So meaning is basically something which defines a purpose, and a purpose is something that has a meaning. So that creates a paradox, as you can see. But then if these two paradoxes coexist in our lives, so the coexistence of these two paradoxes hence forms the meaning and the purpose, which coexist together in our lives. So these are the two fundamentals. So as we learn in our early math journey, addition and subtraction. So addition and subtraction are the two fundamentals of mathematics. Without these fundamentals, math cannot be branched. It's just not possible for math to be branched. So The entire purpose, the entire world around us is derived from these two theories, two statements, two words: meaning and purpose. Both coexist, in my opinion. So, meaning is something which has a purpose, and purpose is something which has a meaning. You get what I'm saying? So, so basically, it's something like a meaning is supposed to be some there for a reason. It needs to have a purpose, and a purpose is something which needs to have a meaning. Like, there is a reason that you are doing that, and that reason is the meaning of that. So the fundamentals of our society, of our world around us, are derived from these two words: meaning and purpose. Meaning and purpose are the two fundamentals. We'll keep in mind that for now. But still, the question remains unanswered, which is, what is our purpose in life? So basically, think of yourself as a person named X. So you are a really clueless person in the suburbs of a city. So you don't really realize your purpose in this world. Just like any random person. Let's suppose you have a normal income job and working at a 9 to 5 office. You'll say that. I mean, you're feeding your family, you're taking care of your old parents, probably at their village or with you in your own home. But then you have to reflect on the fact that I am born not just to feed my family and continue this generation. I mean, that's all right. I mean, I can continue this generation and this so-called thing called prestige of my family. But then, for this prestige to actually mean something, like we're getting back to the meaning again, meaning to have a purpose, for this prestige to be there in the first place, you need to do something that is actually that is actually like influential in our society, that is game changing in our society. Basically, it's not like you just go to office, do your 9 to 5 job, get your salary, and just feed your family. That's not it. That's not the purpose. The purpose is to figure out something that intrigues you in such a way that it motivates you to take out the meaning of yourself. Take out the purpose of your existence. That is something like your existence has a purpose, and you have to figure out what is that purpose. I mean, it's going to be very difficult to understand what I'm saying here, but for an individual to be, you know, reflective and understanding of his existence in this world, he needs to understand his meaning, his purpose in this world. And it takes many years, many years, many tries, many interests, many experiences, many ups and downs, many mood swings, many of literally everything around us to figure out what that purpose is. And people die without realizing their purpose. So see, the human mind is very unique. Everybody functions differently. We have to say that. So it's not necessary that somebody is intrigued towards engineering and that other person, his or her other individual, could be intrigued to that same field. He or she could realize that they have a different meaning, they have a different purpose. They don't feel that purpose in what they are doing. So for a thing to be meaningful to you in your life, it needs to have a purpose. And if you don't feel that purpose inside your subconscious mind, then there's something up with that. You're not sure whether you're actually meant for that, or maybe that's not your destiny, I suppose. See, destiny is something that we feel in our subconscious mind as our ultimate goal in life. But I feel that destiny is something that can be shaped. that can be shaped by finding out our meaning and purpose. Everybody has a different meaning and different purpose in life. You can change that meaning by changing the thinking process, by changing your paradigm in your subconscious mind. So basically, that's what it is. It's going to be very hard to process this concept of understanding the meaning and purpose, but the world around us, the papers, the books, everything has a purpose, everything has a meaning. There is a meaning to telephone someone. There is a purpose for there to have books there. There's a purpose. There's a purpose for Einstein to say that. There's a meaning for Einstein to even exist. So there's a purpose and meaning everywhere around us. So there's a purpose for everything. There's a purpose for me speaking this. You know what's that purpose? It's just me feeling influential. It's just me reflecting upon myself that life is just not about getting good grades, chasing deadlines, finishing first in competitions. That's not it. That's not life. That's not school life. There needs to be more than that. It's just not enough to me, at least. There are more things rather than just chasing deadlines, finishing school homework, practicing music. There are more things than that. There needs to be a certain purpose that gives a good, meaningful meaning to your life. And it's going to be a hell of a task to figure out what that meaning is. I mean, it's going to be certainly very difficult, I surely assure you that. But never mind. For now, we just have to accept that everything has a meaning and purpose. But now here comes the main question. How do you identify this meaning and this purpose of yourself and your existence in this world? So first of all, for that, you have to get back a little into family history. So I'll get to that. So what does family history play here? So family history basically defines what are the core values and paradigms you have associated with throughout your life, throughout your childhood basically. Like currently we are adolescents, so whatever experiences you have seen throughout childhood with your parents, now you have adopted certain values from those experiences. And now those values are going to decide our meaning and our purpose. So basically when we are born, we don't have a meaning and purpose. There's no nothing. We don't really have a reason to exist. Our existence is just for the entertainment of our parents, because we are small, we're kids, we're cute, we're everything like that. But then, the existence of humans exist for a purpose, for a reason, to continue the human race, right? To continue, innovate, improve, and reach further heights. That's the main purpose of humanity, right? So we have successfully identified the purpose of humanity and meaning of humanity. But now, for an individual to identify that, it's much more harder, because in a collective sense, it's quite easy to give it a vague definition that we exist to innovate and improve. Innovate and improve for what? What's the point? Like, okay, we innovate and improve. Yes, we get to Mars, we get to Pluto, we get to any goddamn planet across the solar system, or even across the Andromeda galaxy. But what's the point? We're still gonna die. It's not like we're gonna cheat death or something like that, Because death itself is something that cannot be cheated. That death itself is something that is another fundamental principle of life. You cannot escape death, no matter what. Nothing, not even science, no nothing in this world, no literature, no nothing can save you from death. Literature can just give you a perspective of death, and it just reinforces the importance of death in our lives. Death and birth are another two fundamental core principles of our life. Death, principle, meaning, purpose. These four things define the world around us. But then the core principles remain to be meaning and purpose. There's a reason to be born. There's a reason to die. There is a purpose behind everything. Everything happens for a reason and for a purpose. Everything happens for a purpose and for a reason, for a meaning. There's a certain meaning to your death. There's a certain reason for your death. There's a certain purpose for your death. There's a certain reason for you to be born. There's a certain meaning for your birth. There's a certain meaning to your birth. Everything has a meaning. So, in order to identify this, you have to open your mind. You have to be open-minded. You have to explore different thoughts, feelings, emotions. You have to play. You have to play with your feelings. It's not like you have to be closed in your comfort zone and just scroll through your phone throughout the day. You don't do that. You have to open yourself to new experiences, new people, new thoughts, new feelings. All this gives you a perspective of the world around you, and that further enhances your thinking. The further enhancement of your thinking leads you to have a better meaning and a better purpose to your life. And having a definite meaning and purpose in your life is very necessary, because that's what humans are meant for. As of now, we still are yet to properly define the existence, the reason of existence of mankind, and that's something that no person in this world can do. There's no purpose for us humans to exist. There's no purpose for us to exist, because we are meant to live, and then we're meant to give birth, and then we're meant to do jobs. We're meant to feed our family, then we're meant to retire, and then we're meant to die. That's it, right? No. For the entirety of mankind, it's practically not possible to have a certain, solidified, meaningful purpose to exist, because you don't really have a genuine reason to exist, to be honest. There's no meaning to anything, because we're just in a black space, to be honest. This is just our small earth. We're nothing. We're just supposed to not exist. But for an individual like me and you, for anyone, this world is our place. This world is our entire purpose. This world is something that our entire purpose should revolve around. This world is something we should make ourselves a better place for. We exist for this world. We exist to make this world a better place. We exist just so that the world is a better place. We don't need to necessarily go on in homicides, terrorism acts, terrorist attacks. We don't need to do all that. We just need to live in harmony, peace, solace, courtesy, courteousness. That's it. It's just a simple, fundamental thing. So, I don't have much to say now, because a meaning and purpose are itself coexisting in a reality which we are not sure has a purpose to even exist. But like, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on this? So, sorry for the minor disturbance. So, that disturbance has a meaning. There is a meaning to that disturbance. There's a meaning, there's a purpose for every disturbance. Everything has a meaning. Every action, everything has a meaning behind it. But it need not necessarily be meaningful to us. Meaningfulness can depend on the person whom you're associating it with. Meaningfulness doesn't necessarily mean something, a value for a person. It can only mean something to a person whom they find valuable. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, something which I might not find profitable might not be meaningful to me, but something which is profitable to someone might be meaningful to them. So meanings can be a variable in my context. So everything has a meaning, because let's say I become a scientist, so the Schrödinger equation basically will hold a certain meaning for me. But for a layman person, the Schrödinger equation will not hold a certain meaning. It has a meaning of its own. There's a purpose for that to exist. But a meaning and a purpose are still different things. Meaning is a variable, while purpose is something that we need to accept as a whole. Meaning is something that can change for people. So this is one of the concepts that I've discussed throughout this video. How to define, figure out the meaning and purpose around you. So, it's been a while since I've uploaded, so this is one of my first philosophical videos, one of my first ever philosophical videos in a while. So, hope you like it, and I'll see you soon. Thank you very much, and any doubts or any debates, please try to mention it in the comments. I'll surely reach to you out, and we'll certainly try to have a part 2 to this, because this is something which we heavily needs more discussion upon. So cheers everybody, and good night.